All right, I think we can go ahead and get started here. We have everybody. So I'll go ahead and call the Halifax Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Today is Monday, June 3rd. In attendance from the Halifax Finance Committee is Cheryl Zerla-Burke, Michael Bennett, Jim Walters, E.J. Bryan, Frank Johnston, Bill Smith, and myself, Todd Dargy. This meeting is being recorded by Area 58. First order of business for tonight's session was the acceptance of the meeting minutes from the last, well, actually not the last meeting, but from May 13th, which happened to be the town meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes? Any questions, concerns, comments? No.
All set for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, hearing none, then would somebody like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from Monday, May 13th?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Michael. Thank you, Bill. Roll call vote. Cheryl?
Yes.
EJ?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes, on the minutes from 5/13/2024.
Jim?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Motion carries 7-0. So next on the agenda was the reappointment of Cheryl and Michael. And Michael, looks like we had a typo in your name there, so apologize for that. But so we did the appointment last week. So they were appointed by the committee for another 3-year term, effective at the end of this fiscal year. So so again, Michael and Cheryl, thank you for your continued commitment to the town. I know you're the two elder statesmen on this committee, and obviously very engaged, and continue to support the town. So very much appreciated. So thank you for your service, and look forward to continuing to work with you. So that was that. And then next up on the agenda was the deferred topics. So I just I thought now would be a good time to kind of just, not necessarily, we're not going to solve anything, or certainly tonight, but thought it would be a good time to kind of dust off the spreadsheet that we had going from, last year. We had some discussions and we had tabled a few items. So, post the town meeting, I thought would be a good idea just to kind of, again, just kind of dust off that list, take a look at what's out there, have some discussion around some of the topics, and, formalize or at least begin to formalize a game plan on some of them. And then also just open up, lastly, like any other discussion of, topical areas that, we think we should get on the radar for this year. So that was really the intent of this, the review of the topics. So we'll just go in the order of the list as it is printed here in the agenda. So the first was the Highway Department consulting contract. And I don't know, so I guess maybe, Cody, I guess if you could maybe hit on some of these, just some thoughts, and then obviously, like, folks, feel free to kind of jump in with any questions or comments or anything, I guess, as we go through these. But
so I just, do we know exactly what this was? The only consultant I can think of in the highway department is for our stormwater management, our MS4 permitting. So I assume that's what it is. I just not 100% sure.
Yeah. So I think it was
The roof.
Sorry, what was that, Cheryl?
Wasn't it the roof?
No, it was
No.
EJ can weigh in on it. He brought it to the table, but I'm pretty sure it revolved around the stormwater management contract.
Yeah, that would make sense. I'm more than happy to answer specific questions on it. Generally speaking, so that falls under engineering, which is exempt from 30B. It was VHB is the consultant we utilize, an engineering firm. They specialize in MS4 permitting, stormwater management, and then we have requirements for our MS4 permit, annual filings that we have to do, and then also projects that we have to take on. We have to show that we're making progress towards, full compliance. And they've really helped us actually even map out all of our stormwater systems, many of which we didn't have any mapping of in town. So they do a lot of field work. I'm not sure how they were brought on board. That it was prior to me. I reviewed some notes today. I couldn't really find much. Sandy wasn't super involved in with that either, so she wasn't sure. If as far as procuring it and going out to a competitive bid process, it's certainly something we'll look to do when our permit is up in, I think it's 2027. But you really don't want to change vendors throughout your permit year or the permit cycle, because they're the ones that put the permit together. They're the ones that know the projects that you're going to be working on. And also they're the ones that mapped out our system. So it would probably cost more, or even if it didn't cost more, there would be a loss in productivity because they're familiar with the town. They know the town. So I certainly think there's opportunity at the end of this permit to go out and, procure services, and, we may even get them again, but it makes it a little bit more competitive, which is great. But we wouldn't want to go out mid cycle with the permit, just because, they're the ones that's overseen this process thus far.
Yeah, I think my only recollection on this, Todd, was more of a general comment relating to contracts in general across the town. There seemed to be a lot of gaps in terms of the understanding as to what contract terms we had in place, how we got there, were they bid out, what can we put out to bid that maybe hasn't gone out in quite some time. To Cody's point, just to kind of make it more of a competitive process rather than just rolling it over year to year,
No, exactly. Yeah. And then having a firm policy in place that we're, following and abiding to, type of thing, which really leads into the third item. So maybe we can hit on that, just the overall procurement policy is concerned.
Yeah, so we implemented a purchasing and procurement policy last July 1st that the town didn't really have a policy in place. So I think it's been a learning curve. Sandy can certainly touch on it, but her and her team, the assistant town accountant, have been great assets in policing this, because really they're the first line of defense if making sure that the policy is being followed. Because if a purchase order isn't submitted with an invoice, they're the ones that need to put a flag on it and say, no, we're not processing this. You're not following the policies, and they have been excellent with that, which has helped to really make it successful. So with that, there's been a lot of things that we've caught, that maybe we weren't getting multiple proposals on. So, and we're not really doing anything more, than the state law requires at this point. It's challenging for a small community like us to go above and beyond and do, competitive procurements for many things, because the human resources required to prepare those procurements it's in depth. If you look, like we have a procurement, we just had one out for the project manager for the Council on Aging project. And if you look at our website and you look at kind of what we have to put together, it's not just a one-page document that says we're looking for X, submit proposals by this date. It's 15, 20-page procurement documents we put together. Yeah. So anything over 50,000, we have to do that. We move forward, we do that. Anything between 10,000 to 50,000, we solicit at least 3 proposals from different vendors who do the work. So a lot of it has been catching, over the 50, we were usually going out to bid. The town did a good job of that. It was that, maybe just over 10,000 or in that range. That's where we're kind of catching the most of making sure that we're getting, 3 competitive proposals. And it's been good. And like I said, it's been good. Sandy in the accounting office has been great at policing that. So anything over 2,500 requires a purchase order right now. Purchase orders are supposed to be, submitted before any sort of item is actually purchased or, anything is ordered. The department head signs off on it, comes to me as the chief procurement officer. I review to make sure that the procurement was followed. Sometimes I'll check in the account to make sure that we have enough money. And then once I sign off on it, I send a copy back to the department and then to Sandy. If it's done electronically, if it's just a paper copy, it goes back to the department head, and then they're responsible to be submitting it with their invoice that is respective to the purchase order. So, certainly something we'll continue to tighten up, but we've come a long way in the last year with it. I think it's really helped to button us up, and it's really helped, I think, with the purchasing in our line item transfers. I mean, we've had some line item transfers this year, but if you look, it's not to the extent that we had last year, knock on wood. And I think part of that is we have a little bit better of a grasp on the spending. When a purchase order goes in our financial system, it shows up as an encumbrance, basically already being accounted for. So we know if there is a contract in place for $50,000, purchase order has been submitted, it shows up in our accounting system now. That's actually that full 50,000 will be taken out of the budget for that year. So it's been helpful. We're hopeful that with the new financial system, it'll all be electronic, because it's not perfect that it's a paper system now, or we do it would be a PDF. But again, it's only been a year, and most department heads and staff were never familiar with a process like this, so it's been a big adjustment.
Right.
Yeah.
And as Cody said, the bigger items we were going out to bid for. Usually, if we had a contract, it might have been a 3-year contract, but they were going out for like the highway supplies for the, the tar, for the gas and oil. Would do it for electricity. We did it. I'm trying to think of some of the other things, but they were good on the bigger items of going out with the previous town administrator. So.
Yep.
Okay, great. Any questions, follow-ups on that from anyone?
I just want to circle back on that contract, Cody, for the consultant expires in 2027, I believe you said.
Well, our contract is an annual contract with them, Frank, but the current permit needs to be completely redone in 27.
Okay,
So we technically,
expires.
we technically could sever ties with them at the end of the fiscal year and seek out a new vendor. It's just not something that we'd recommend, because they're the ones that have seen this process through. So that's fine.
Right.
So how does that work though? So if the permit is done by them and it's good until 27, they're ultimately responsible for obtaining that permit to begin with. And while that's happening, they're on a year-over-year contract.
No, it's the town's responsibility, and we just basically contract with them to assist us in the process. Like even our submittals, they can't come from the consultant. They have to prepare everything, and then we actually have to submit it and send it all in. And it's the reason that it's an annual contract instead of a 3-year or a 5-year contract is more because it's a lot of it's project based. So they do the consulting work for us, and that's 70 to 80,000 of the, I think it's around 150 we probably spend. And then the rest is all project based. And so the projects are up to what we want to do. And so we have regular stormwater management meetings, myself, our health agent, Steve, and our highway department, and then conservation, and determine, these are projects we want to go for. So it varies year to year on what the extent of it could be. And that's why it's just been an annual contract.
So wouldn't it? So if as a town, we're not going to want to go out to replace that contract for obvious reasons. I mean, everything that you're saying, Cody, makes sense. But if we know that a permit that they were involved with us obtaining is good for, say, 5 years, if we know that we're not going to want to bid that contract out, wouldn't it make sense to try to negotiate the 5-year contract with them to get better terms rather than going year over year and have to deal with, increases and whatnot? Sometimes when you do that, you might be able to say, if they have a 3% annual increase that they build into the contract, you might be able to talk to them and negotiate down to a 2% annual increase in the contract. But when we're going year over year, that wiggle room sort of goes out the window. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something we could definitely look at.
Yeah, we could tie the terms of the contract to the period of performance of the permit with the state. If they issue it for 3 years, then we should have a contract with the consulting firm for that 3-year period.
Yeah.
I feel that's how it should work. And that's typically how we used to do it back in the day when we had stormwater permits we had to manage. We tied it to the permit and for that period of performance.
Yeah, especially where you're tied to them anyways, right? So it just makes sense, DJ's point, to get more favorable, have more leverage to get more favorable terms, right?
Right, because they'll put escalators in there each year, which
Yeah,
you expect to be done, but it allows you to negotiate what those escalators are over the three to 5 years, well, however long the permit is good for with DEP.
Well, yeah, and then usually, it involves saving some amount of money, even though it does escalate a little bit. You will save some amount of money.
Yeah, because you're committing up front to go X amount of years. Yeah, so
Right.
You build a relationship with the vendor, the supplier, consultant, whoever it might be, and they also look at it as, okay, well, we've got a contract for the next 3 years or 5, whatever it is, based on the permit. And they like that too, because they're forecasting their work out as well,
Exactly. Yeah, it's a
they don't want
win-win.
to go year to year. I worked with a lot of consultants, and they don't like to go year to year. They want to get a 3-5 year contract in, and then they can manage their business accordingly, make sure they got the right amount of staffing to manage the contract, things of that nature.
Right.
Yeah.
But we got another couple of years to go on that. So,
yeah.
But it's important that we look at things from that standpoint. I feel it is.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
No, all great points for sure. All right, so I guess staying on the procurement front is the school department. So, that's a much bigger issue. I think that's something that we need to focus on this year. So I don't know, I was kind of thinking about this the other day, and maybe it makes sense because we need to figure out how to best to try to address the whole situation with the vendors, like, particularly even like the school resource officer contract, right? Where, they made the point on the floor, right? That, the town approves it and they just, say that the police department, fill the position, and then whatever the cost is, it just pass it to the town, right? Which, it can't operate that way, right? For various reasons. So I think that's a big point we need to address with them. So I was thinking, I don't know, maybe we can ask them to add that to one of their agenda, to their agenda to one of their upcoming meetings or something that we could attend and try to have some open dialogue and discussion with them to try to figure out a way to push that forward. I think we need them to take ownership on that and potentially let us get more involved, I guess, in that in some capacity.
They go about bids.
Yeah.
So what I see what you're saying. I guess in order for us to, I think, have an effective dialogue with them, it would probably be beneficial if we can provide them kind of exactly. So what exactly is the finance committee looking for from them? That way they're prepared and they can produce hopefully the information, and it's
well, from my point of view, I think what we'd be looking for is them to take more responsibility, I guess, over the contracts, and not, again, in the particular instance of the school resource officer, not just going to say, the Kingston Police Department and saying, we need a part-time employee for X amount of hours, and then, and then be oblivious to what it costs and to the towns and things of that nature. So I think we need to have some kind of agreement as to like how those kind of contracts and negotiations are gonna work. If they're not gonna take ownership of the contract, then I think we need to get involved some way, shape, or form to be able to help, push those discussions and make sure that, the town is actually getting a, viable and financially responsible outcome, I guess, of whatever the situation may be. And so there's the school resource officer, there's the whole transportation, special needs transportation, which, we spent a lot of time, diving into, which I, created a sheet that broke down all the prices to, a very granular level of detail, which we found that actually, which was surprising to me, because I thought actually the costs were going to be really more out of district transportation, but they were really, I think 80% of the costs were right in Kingston alone. So there's opportunities in some of these fees to kind of drive them down and be more sustainable and, again, viable for the town, which I think is a major problem, right? As we've seen in the last town meeting, like folks are really against taxes increasing, right? So unfortunately, as we all know, we go through the town hall, the town department, budgets with a fine tooth comb, right? And have for, decades, I guess, probably, right? And so there's not any there isn't any more fat, I guess, in any of those budgets. So really the target area has to be with getting our hands around these school budgets and having somebody take more ownership of
having more to
the
say
detail.
about how they do it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's my thoughts. I don't know if anybody else, disagrees or agrees or
No,
has
I
other thoughts.
agree.
Well, it's nice to get your hand around it, but they also need to get it started in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
Yeah,
Because the time they're taking is obviously not adequate.
right.
Yeah.
The biggest
So that's
challenge is they won't talk about a budget until January.
Right.
yeah.
And they should be talking now.
Right. Well, we should be
starting
talking
to
in October.
now.
We should be talking in October. By the end of their first quarter, they should understand kind of where they're at from a spend perspective.
Right.
No, exactly. And that's why I was hoping maybe we could just somehow have some dialogue and open discussion with them, say in the coming months.
There's no harm in asking. And, the challenge is, as you rightly said, Todd, is, they're going to go out and get a contract for a school resource officer and then just dump it on the town and make the town say no, because then they are basically blameless when it comes back on. So that's the tactic that they like to use, and that's fine. Again, it's got to be something that we have to have an active conversation with, and and that starts with what's her name, Dr. Jill.
Sarah.
Yeah, so I was hoping Cody,
But also Sarah Hickey.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I was hoping, Cody, we could maybe, and maybe it's not in their meeting, it could be in our meeting, or maybe it could be a separate meeting, but just have some like open and honest dialogue of just like almost like a brainstorming session, even too, just kicking the tires on, what's the best way to move this forward, collectively, right? For them, for the town citizens, for the region as a whole, right? Like there's a lot of work, I think, and a lot of opportunity here that, we need to get started on and come up with some solutions, because long term, this isn't going to be viable, right, to continue to operate this way. And it's coming to a head actually pretty quickly, right? Maybe even next year with some of this stuff. So.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I can tell you one of the things that they have brought up is, they want us to oversee procurement at the elementary school. And, from my standpoint, I pushed back just for the fact that we have no authority over there, right? So we have no authority on their purchasing. So I'm not going to oversee their procurement on an operation that I have no authority over, or no oversight over. And that's been one of the things that we've gone back and forth with.
But shouldn't we have some authority with that?
Yeah, and isn't that a way for us? Isn't that a way for us to establish some, I guess, Cody, by getting in there and formalizing it as,
No, because they want to say, we're doing this project. We want you to procure it. That's it. Put the work on us rather than any sort of oversight or authority to do anything. And we have no authority. They can say we're doing this contract, or we're purchasing this, or we're purchasing that, and we have no authority over it. And they also spend. Again, you look at their 50. The elementary school is $8 million. They're a big operation. To then just say we have to take over their procurement with little to no oversight. We can't say you're going to follow this policy, this procedure. It's just not. It's not a viable thing.
There's a pretty hard line drawn between town and school as far as who's responsible for, the purchasing and all of that. They have line item autonomy, which also makes it so they can move their money between all their different lines.
Right.
But basically, we've been told in the past that the school building is the school's, and the town has up to the building. The building and everything inside that envelope is the school's responsibility. The school committee and the administration.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Makes sense. That makes no sense at all. Children go to school there. We pay taxes for our kids to go to school there. We should have more of a say as to how you're spending money.
Yeah, when we get the big roof, well, that's it. You elect the school committee, and they're the ones who have the say over how the money is spent. But they sign the bills. They're not in charge of the procurements or telling people where they have to order from or any of that.
And don't they have to follow the same rules as far as procurement as everybody else, as we have to, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
They have to put them out to 3 bids and they have to do that.
For the most part, it's a little bit different for schools. Some of the thresholds are a little bit different. But in general, the process is a very similar process. It's just the thresholds are a little bit different. But again, that's the whole idea, right? Part of what we pay at the elementary school is shared costs, and you heard the school committee touch on that, right? These shared cost contracts. I mean, a large part of that is the administrative side that the town pays. We're paying for that. That services we're paying through Silver Lake's admin. That's beyond our assessment. It's the shared cost in the elementary school budget for the superintendent, for their administrative staff over there. So it's kind of an operational thing, but I wanted to mention it because it's probably something you'll hear from them. But again, I think if that's something we're going to look at, we need to look at the operation of how we're doing this as a whole. And if we're gonna, and then if we're going to be overseeing procurement, we're already paying the bills, right? It all goes through our accounting system. We pay the employees, we cut the checks I'm talking for the elementary school here.
Right.
You got to start to look at, why don't we have total control of the elementary school then?
Exactly.
Because this quasi regional elementary school, but not really, it presents challenges like this.
Is this segregation or separation, I think is a better term, is this separation codified in the Massachusetts general laws, or is it just something that we do?
Yeah.
It's in the law. Yeah. So the school committee, per the state law, I don't know the exact, chapter, but it has the total authority over the school.
Doesn't the regionalization agreement touch into this too?
The regionalization agreement only touches into the aspects of the regional, so pre-K and then 7 through 12 is the focus of the regional agreement. And then what we do through the elementary school is this union, I think it's Union 31.
Union 31.
Yeah, union. Yeah, right.
And then we have the shared kind of services.
Gotcha.
But in reality, we're only regional 7 through 12 and then pre-K. And then it's this, but again, I wouldn't say we run our own ship really either, because it's the same superintendent, it's the same administrative staff. It's odd.
Are all cities, are all towns like that? Are all regional schools run this way?
No. So for instance, I live in a town with a regional school district, and but they're fully regional. So the two towns both have their own elementary schools, but they're run regionally. So that it's one regional assessment that each town pays an assessment, and that runs the school. They have a shared high school, and then they each have their own elementary school and middle school, but it's a regional school district, pre-K through 12.
Go ahead, EJ.
Yeah, Cody had asked the question when we first started talking about this, as far as what we look to accomplish with meeting with them and how we want to structure that. But Cody, you just touched on it with what you just said a minute ago. It's almost like this is a good conversation starter with them, right? If they have intentions on how they want things to be managed moving forward, we have the same with regards to the budget process. And both sides you can't take and not give back, right? So if we both have goals that we're trying to accomplish, we got to sit in a room, put all those goals on a table, and then figure out how we get there. And it starts with the budget process, because if that process isn't right, everything else that they're looking for in terms of procurement process, etc., is all by the wayside if you don't know how the numbers are being established to begin with. Right. Exactly. So I feel like this is almost that stepping stone where we get them in a room and say, okay, if we want to look at, for lack of a better term, an overhaul on how this works moving forward, then let's start that conversation and let's begin it with this coming year's budget process. Because
you might actually want to start before the budget process.
No, that's what I mean.
Started early, like August or
I was going to say September. Yeah, I was going to say September, Sandy, because that meeting was tough on the 13th, and it didn't help getting chicken scratch on a piece of paper 20 minutes before we walked into the town meeting. And
That was awful.
Right. It was and it puts us in a bad spot. It shines a negative spotlight on the work that we do. And to sit there on the other side of the table and say, oh, by the way, we want you to run our procurement process, that's not entirely fair if you're not going to have a conversation about the overall big picture.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, agree. I guess as far as next steps, I guess, Cody, do you want to reach out to them, I guess, and see if, I mean, I think we're amendable to either solution. Either we maybe join one of their meetings, school meetings, and we discuss this, or maybe the more preferred approach for us would be that they join our meeting, I guess, and we can kind of cover these. But, whatever they prefer based on their availability, I think at the end of the day, we just want to move this forward. So, I'm happy to facilitate either option, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. Is your focus more general in the schools, the elementary school and the regional, or are you focus? I'm just because
I think high level.
So
high level general to start, I guess, and then as we have some to kick the tires on a number of these items, and then we figure out how to kind of tackle them and address them, which I think will require more follow up discussions, more targeted discussions, but. I think the key point is first just to start to open up the dialogue. I think that's a big win in itself, right? Just to have more formal and perhaps reoccurring dialogue with them, I think is very beneficial and will go a long way as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll reach out and see if at the very least Sarah and Jill would be able to attend a finance committee in the near future. Okay,
yeah, see what they say, and then we can go from there and figure something out. But I'd like to, as Sandy mentioned, come August or so, really start having some these in-depth discussions and get ahead of this curve. Try to figure out what kind of wins we can get in place for this upcoming year, and then some of them will be a little more longer term, but at least will put us on the right track, I guess.
Yeah, I think, come late fall, we're going to want to start talking financial projections with them. It's something I've been trying to get out of them, since I got here, because how do we plan if we don't have projections? And again, not going to hold them to it. I understand things change, enrollment changes, but you have to have some sort of projection because, I can tell you,
at least or something. Yeah, when it represents more than 50% of our budget, it has to be mandatory for us. Yeah.
So you're talking, from the projections that I put together for them, and I don't really know their operation, right? Yeah. We're looking at, there's no way we can possibly fund their budget next year, without an override. So it's a conversation we really need to start early to figure out how, what is the approach going to be, and if it is going to be, the potential for an override as a finance committee, as a select board, that's something we need to start very, very soon and start getting the appetite, from the community. And if, present multiple budgets, if this doesn't pass, this is what it looks like. If it does, this is what we'll do. But it's not, when we started talking this past year, a couple months before town meeting, override potential or not, you can't implement a successful override in a couple of months. It's a very long process if you want to be successful, or at least present it successfully.
Sure. Yeah, no, and I think that's exactly the starting point.
We really don't want to be presenting overrides. And the schools, especially the Silver Lake District, needs to be more transparent on how they're operating with a 35% increase over the previous year, instead of a chicken scratch on each side of a piece of paper dropped off, at 6:20 at night, and then nobody within the community even questioned that,
No.
And it's just crazy, when they're 54% of our budget, and that leaves us 46% to operate this town. We're bare bones to begin with on the operations of the town, and
right, yeah, exactly.
That's what the community has a difficult time understanding. They got it flip-flopped, they think it's the town that's, the cream of the crop, what it's not.
It isn't.
It's the regional school district, and the elementary school took the heat of the deductions, and the regional school district didn't contribute to the party,
No, exactly. They got stuck with the holding the bag, I guess, if you will. Yeah. But that 46% too, just keep in mind, right? That includes the fixed costs, right? Which is like what, 13, 14%. So, the town government budget's really only operating around like what 32-33% and something, which is pretty small. And so there's going to be some challenges certainly for next year. But I think that's exactly the starting point, Cody, is that we have these major concerns, and then how do we address them? How do we kind of move the dial a bit? And again, some of these discussions are what does that, right? The procurement practices, the overall management of the budget and the line items, and more transparency into this stuff, because we're we're blind to a lot of what's going on there. And you were able to find that overage there within like 20 minutes of that meeting, which is kind of concerning as well, right? So I don't know. So
you bring valid points there, Todd. There's how many buses are running half empty over in that side of the house,
right,
that can be tightened up on the general busing, just a lot of things, what's the head count over there? What's the teacher ratio? What's the assistant ratio to the students, all those things need to be looked at, just like what happened over at the elementary school, and
exactly.
That's what we need to look at there.
Yes,
exactly.
Part of that. It's not just, this contract or that contract. And there's no reason that they should be waiting till January, February to kind of tell us kind of maybe where they're going to be. And then in March say, we're still not sure if we're there yet,
Yeah, well, that's not working.
And
I think it's not working at all.
Not working at all for us. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think the historical practice of kind of writing them blank checks, right, which continues to this day, needs to stop, right, and we need to work with them to change that. But also, I think part of the problem is what I've seen, Cody, is that they continue to run at a overage as well in their budgeting, right, which I know they ran last year. So I don't think any of us should have a comfort that they're actually running to budget, right? They're running over the budget, so which just highlights an additional concern as well, right? Like I don't know that there's the full understanding of the cost, and they're certainly not being managed to budget entirely. So that's a problem in itself.
Sure is.
Well,
but again, I think
the biggest challenge, as we all know in business, is people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people's. It's the salaries that are killing us. So at Silver Lake, it's the high school teachers, followed by the middle school teachers, and then followed by, unbelievably, the nurses. So that's where the money, that's where the lion's share of that budget is going.
Yeah.
So unless we're getting in, which we are not, obviously, getting in on union contract negotiations about what they're going to get paid and what they're asking, we don't have a lot of wiggle room. Once you take those dollars out, there's really not a lot left from a operational standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Jim, that's where the head count comes in on a number of students.
No, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
I get it. It's tough to make those hard decisions, but you know what? They've got to be made in business. It's just how life rolls in the business world, and it's no different. They're a business.
I 100% support that.
Yeah. So, anyways, there's a lot of challenges to kind of get our arms around here. So, but yeah, so I think that'd be a good start. Just having some open and honest dialogue with them to at least get the process and folks engaged and that kind of stuff will be huge. And then we go from there. But yeah, I think all of the fruit, not just the low-lying fruit, right? I think all are on the budget, all are on the school side, because there's just nothing left to pick on the town government side, as we know. So
yeah, and it's as we keep discussing here, it's an early process, and the earlier the better.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
exactly.
agree.
That's the key point. Yeah, that's why I want to get started on this sooner than later. Like in the summer, like even we're not going to solve anything on day one, obviously, but at least get the discussions going and move things forward, I guess, to where we can. And a lot of these have no easy solutions too, right? So, but I don't think that it shouldn't deter us from trying to tackle them, right? Like, yeah, exactly. So. All right, so Cody, you'll reach out to them, I guess, when you get a chance, and just get their thoughts as far as like, when we could have some dialogue with them, whether it's us joining their meeting, if they want to do it that way, or if they want to, join ours, and we can just have some initial conversations on some challenges and concerns and, maybe, best practices, I guess, for going forward, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them tomorrow and let you know when they're available.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you, Cody, for that. And then so the one item we did skip over, which I just want to go back to before we open up for other topical areas, is the financial policy. So I know, Cody, you gave me an update a couple weeks back, I guess, but do you want to just relate to the committee here, I guess, the overall plan to kind of...
Sure. So you may recall the plan is to do a joint meeting with the selectmen on June 11th. One of the topics to discuss there is the DOR financial management review. With that, they did look at some of our financial policies, but it's a good opportunity after that, I think, to really dig into those. Summertime's the best time to do that. It's probably the workload of the committee is at its lightest during the summer. So, but they have best practices that we can look at. They have model financial policies. So after the meeting on the 11th, I can start to share some of that with you. I'll also work to get out our existing financial policies to everybody. That are there, you can see what we have in place, areas where maybe we need to do some updating, and then I'll send out the model that the state has, which a lot of our financial policies are in good shape. We have solid, strong policies in some areas. There's some that, we need to update, just that haven't been updated in a while, and we need to, change it with the times. And then there's others where it's more of, the outlook of the community. How do we want to handle X, or, do we want to go in this direction, or do we want to go in this direction? So those are all things we can look at, but I'd say in the summertime is probably the best. So after the meeting with the selectmen, we can start to dig into those.
Oh, yeah. Great. Yeah. Thank you, Cody. And so we have that nailed down for next Tuesday, right? The 11th at 6 p.m. on site. Right?
Yes. Yep. We'll be in the Great Hall.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And everybody's okay with that? I know, Cheryl, you'll be away, but everybody else?
Away.
Yep. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Awesome. And then we also have those other items on that agenda as well, Cody, right? Just with the communication and that kind of stuff, contract, outcomes, I guess.
Yep. So I have, general communication, financial impact of contracts, Department of Revenue financial management review, town meeting recap.
Okay. Was there anything else from anyone that, those are the three that we had discussed with Cody, but was there anything else that anybody wants to add? I guess now would be the time to, if you have any other.
Do we have any cadence with the selectmen, where we sit down on a scheduled basis to go over like year-to-date actuals on the budget? Do we do that quarterly? This will be my first full year going through, so I don't know the answer to that question.
No, we haven't historically, no.
Okay.
Oh, and the audit, Todd. So our audit was just finalized. I will get that sent out to everybody probably tomorrow. And so we can discuss the audit to find actually no findings this year, which is excellent.
No findings? Okay. That's fair.
Surprising.
We run a tight ship, Jim. It may not seem like it, but we do run a tight ship. I'm not surprised.
I know. I read the one from last year. So if we fixed everything from last year, I'm surprised.
Have them swing by the school district there.
All right, very good. So I guess as far as just closing out the deferred topics, I guess, any other key focus areas that anyone thinks that we should get on the radar? I think obviously the school will be the major focus, certainly, but
big one.
Yeah. No. Okay. All right. So I think that sheet was helpful. So as things pop up, Katie, I'm sure we'll be happy to kind of manage that, and we can add things to the list so we don't lose sight of them.
I think that's great to keep tracking like that, Todd, and being the ones that are currently on there with updates to them,
Exactly. Yeah.
And things of that nature, get one sheet going and just keep rolling with that sheet so we can just refer to one page or to whatever, one document,
Yeah. Yeah. So the document is saved out on the folder too. So you should all have access to see that. If you don't, just let me know. But yeah, exactly. We'll keep that out there, and we can close down the items as we go and add to it as necessary. So, all right. Anything else on the deferred topics from anyone before we move on? No. Okay. All right. So we did get to last minute transfer requests in. So one was from the highway, one from the police department, both of which were related to electricity costs. So the highway one was a request to transfer $7,000 from the snow and ice, which we know, had very, minimal, almost no snow. So transferring 7,000 to that account, to the street lighting account, in the amount of $7,000. I think the current balance is was it negative 2545. So I guess so the 7,000 would then put it at around $4,500.
500, yeah.
Positive, I guess.
One more round of bills to pay.
Yeah. Okay, and that's about 4,000 or so.
So yeah, that's what she's expecting.
Okay. All right. Any questions, comments on that from anyone?
No. Sandy, they're comfortable with that's going to cover that. We're not going to have another one pop up here in July.
I'm hoping not. If we get any surprises, but
no, I'm talking about the electricity over at the town hall. Not town hall, but the street lighting.
She believes that will cover it.
We did just start getting our bills with the new electricity rate, so they should be a little bit lower too. So even with them using the average of the past few months, the number should actually be lower. So this is a pretty comfortable number.
Yeah, I didn't realize we had that many street lights in Halifax. A lot of these roads I drive are pretty dang dark.
Pitch black here where I drive.
Pitch black is, yeah, exactly.
Pitch black.
That's right, Sandy. It is dark.
No, South Street
there isn't any on Elm Street.
All right, so would somebody like to make a motion then to transfer in the amount of $7,000 from snow and ice to the street light account?
So moved.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Cheryl. Roll call vote. Frank?
Approve the 7,000 transfer for the highway department street lighting.
Thank you, Frank. EJ?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Motion carries 7-0. All right. So next up then was the transfer from police. So the transfer request was in the amount of $3,000 from the conservation agent's salary account, which has a current balance of just under 13,000. So the request is to transfer 3,000 out of that account to the police station electricity, which currently has a negative 1438.43 in the account. So this would put it as a positive just about $1,600, I guess.
1561.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. So same scenario, obviously here, right? Any questions, comments on this request?
Is that the average bill, Sandy? 15?
Yeah, it will probably come in about 14 something like this past one did. So I went a little generous. I told her to ask for 3,000 to cover the last one and the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the chief's on here. He might want to go around flipping those switches off before he leaves,
No heat in the cells.
That's right.
All right. Would somebody like to then make a motion to transfer in the amount of $3,000 from the conservation agent's salary to the police station electricity account?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Michael. Roll call vote. Frank?
Yes, for the electricity of 3,000 at the police department.
Jim?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
EJ?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Motion carries 7-0. All right, so that took care of the funding transfer request. Any others that we're expecting, I guess, for we won't be meeting, we're not planning to meet next week. So I guess just let us know if anything develops where anything urgent.
I'm keeping my eyes up on the accounts and asking the department heads to do the same. So
yeah,
I come in and sign tomorrow.
Say that again, Cheryl.
Do we have to sign these?
Yeah, Cheryl, why don't you give it a couple of days? Let the guys all sign it electronically and send it to me, and then you can sign that one.
Okay. All right. I'll come in on Thursday.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'll circulate the sheet to you guys post this meeting, so you can try the electronic way.
Yeah.
If anybody has any issues, just give me a shout, and then we can figure out game plan, or have you go down once I send the sheet over to Sandy. All right.
Yeah, Todd, Sandy,
Yeah, go ahead.
or Cody, do you think we have any outliers out there that are going to come in of significant dollars, or do we feel pretty comfortable with each department here?
I don't think anything significant. We've been relaying for the past, 3 months. Everyone needs to be very aware of their accounts. No spending sprees at the end of the fiscal year, and to keep us updated if there's going to be any overages. And these are the only ones that have come up. So yeah, department heads are doing a really good job of making sure that they're sticking to their budgets.
Yeah, that's great. That's big change from last year.
Yeah, we have a lot last year.
Actually, Cody, I had a question. Actually, weren't we going to start a new process, I guess, for the signatures on these transfer requests? Is that in place now, or?
Well, that's a good question. I can check with Caesar tomorrow and make sure. I think it's built out, so yeah, I can double check tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, because these two might be good to run these through that, I guess, if it's up and running. But if not, just let me know and I can go the old route, I guess.
Yeah, I'll double check tomorrow, but I actually think it's all built out, so I'll let you guys know.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you. Okay, all right. So those were the transfer requests. Correspondence in 8 as may arise. I guess anyone receive anything or?
Where are we at with the town accountant backfill?
Oh, glad you asked, Jim. I do not anticipate we will have anyone in place for July 1st. We have no viable candidates at this point. We're reposting again. The plan is to bring in a consultant who will handle the day-to-day accounting requirements. And then Sandy has graciously offered to consult for us, maybe 10 or 12 hours a week to, for the things that are more pertinent in the office. And as you guys know, Sandy has really acted more as a finance director over the, last 10 plus years in Halifax. So some of our financial departments, she is really supported at a very high level. So she's going to continue to, if the board approves a contract, and we'll have a conversation with you guys about it, hopefully continue to provide some support and also a process for, getting our financial departments in a spot where they, no longer need her support. We've been working at it over the last 6 months to a year. And we made progress, but there's still some work to be done.
Any viable candidates in the pipeline, or is just nothing?
Well, I think the issue has been compensation. We've had 2 viable candidates, 2 very, very different candidates, but both were very good. The search team really liked them both, and it just came down to we weren't able to negotiate a wage that either candidate was comfortable with.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it's a challenge. It's one of those things. We may, depending on what the consulting contract is going to be, around $90,000 a year for just the accounting consultant. And then, we're going to have to obviously compensate Sandy for her time. So, it may be something in the long term where after the board, if we're not able to find someone for what the select board was hoping for, we may have to bring someone in at a little bit of a higher rate because the other options aren't great.
Right.
We have enough money set aside for 25 here if we have to go that year, Cody?
We do, yeah, for some of the contracts, but we're not all of it. And we just don't know what we're going to do yet, Frank. So it's hard to say, if we have to hire someone at what I anticipate we're going to have to hire someone, well, it'll probably end up being a line item transfer, at the end of the year.
Yeah, I was getting at the point of if we do go with a full-time consultant for the year, do we have enough money set in the account at this point? Are we going to have to do something different?
No, I think we'll be a couple $1,000s short.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think we budgeted 87, I believe. It would be 90 for the consultant for the full year. We have some ARPA money available to pay for financial consulting, so we can look at that. So we would probably utilize part of that to pay, Sandy as a consultant for a little while. And then, if that started to run low, we would have to look at the accounting salary line item. But again, we'd just so much up in the air at this point. The board hasn't approved any contracts. That's my plan to present, to them,
right.
But they haven't approved anything at this point.
Yeah, regarding the ARPA, is that have to be expended by the end of 2024, calendar 2024?
It has to be committed by the end of calendar 2024. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we have contracts in place, purchase orders executed, those we can provide that as proof of commitment. That's for anything that we have. Anything that we're getting through the county has to be committed by September 30th, which we'll have no problem with that.
Right,
the school has one project that we're a little bit concerned with, but we're working with them basically until the end of this month, actually June 30th. They're supposed to have it in, and if they don't, it's going to be another conversation we have to have with the select board to see if we want to reallocate that money. We obviously don't want to take a project away from the school, but I also don't want to see us give $400,000 back to the federal government.
Yeah, no, we don't want to lose any money.
Yeah.
No.
We already know there's several places around town that could use that money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
We could use every penny we can get, right? So we don't want to.
Absolutely.
We're not giving it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just have one more final question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
So, the ADA funding. Now, the study we base that off of is a study or a self-assessment that was run in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's 2024, so that study is now 3 years old, and we've barely done anything with the $500,000. So that said, what if we obviously that's not going to get done before the end of the fiscal year. So I presume that account's just going to roll over into next year, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I hope it's in a high interest bearing savings account or something so we can make some kind of money off of it.
Yes, we've had financial meetings, and our treasurer collector has been much more progressive in our investments and some
That's
CDs
good.
and stuff. So if you look, we actually this year year to date we have a record high of earnings on accounts between interest and investments. Investment accounts we're over 70,000, I think 70 or 80,000, and we were like 5,000 last year or the year before.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Well, rates are up though too, so that
I'm
helps.
impressed.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so that said, are we running up against the time clock here?
Yeah.
For the viability of 3-year-old data and dumping $500,000 into it?
no, not really, because the ADA requirements haven't changed.
Mm-hmm.
The project, the way it works, and with many of the projects, is either it's compliant or non-compliant. And so, if anything, it may just be when we reassess, there may be more items that are out of compliance. But I wouldn't say that the projects or the data that's presented is invalid. It's definitely still valid. It's still applicable, and we have until 2030. To get those implemented. And then there's certain things you can request waivers for, so on and so forth. And it's a good question, Jim. I actually, I'm going to ask Scott to put together for the end of this fiscal year, everything that he's done so far this fiscal year and a cost associated with that. Because he's actually done quite a bit, or he's ordered quite a bit of stuff. So but I'll have him put a list together and I'll email it over to you guys. We'll post it on the website as well.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we really need like a roadmap, I think, to get there, because I know he's just kind of been working with those funds and chipping away at things as he can, but we really need that. Now you're talking kind of just 5-year vision, I guess, right? And we also need to understand if there's additional costs, like, how we're going to fit those in and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
Well, that's true, because we knew that the 500,000 wasn't going to get all of the work
Right.
done.
right, yeah.
So how long is it going to last, and when is he going to need another infusion?
More money.
Right. So do we need to start earmarking, some capital, funds for the next 5 years to, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. I think we need to start thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I had another question for Cody if we're finished on the ADA stuff.
The floor is yours, Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Jim. Down at the town barn, kind of update us a little bit on what's going on there.
Let's talk about it at next meeting, Frank. We just have some things going on behind the scenes that I don't want to give up our position on.
That's fine.
But we're definitely making progress, and it seems to be positive. So on the 11th, if you'd like, I can I'll add a quick item on the joint meeting agenda, and I can fill you guys in. I think we'll have a solid answer by then.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Maybe have a little discussion at that meeting. Then I'd like that. Kind of get a feel for what's happening, because we're talking potentially some significant dollars down there.
I think we're gonna make our way out of it without too much of an impact, but stay tuned.
Okay, so thank you, Cody.
All right, great. Anything else from anyone?
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay. Any public participation? No.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next meeting planning. So we already talked about next week's meeting. So that's Tuesday, June 11th on site. A joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen to go through those items that we discussed. Post that will be our Finance Committee meeting, which is next scheduled for June 17th, Monday. I'm not going to be able to make that meeting. I have a conflict, so we have one or two options, I guess. Either Cheryl, we can leave it as is, and then Cheryl, you can run it, or I'd be available to move the meeting to like Tuesday or Wednesday that week if folks are available. So just wanted to get preferences, I guess, or availability for folks that week. Any
18th,
preference?
we've got a zoning bylaw meeting scheduled
On the 18th?
at 8
Okay.
o'clock. 19th
so-
is Juneteenth. It's a holiday for the town.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, so let's leave it on the 17th. I guess, Cheryl, you'll have to just plan to
Okay. Well, they'll
cover
have
that
to
one.
be with me.
Say that again, sir?
I'll do my best, gentlemen.
You'll be fine, I'm
It's
sure.
Zoom, right? I don't have to be out in public.
Yeah, it'll just be a Zoom meeting like this. So it would be good just to keep it scheduled that week, right? Because there might be some line item transfers coming through. So
Okay.
don't want to move it, any
Okay.
further in that week, I guess.
Right.
So we want to just make the agenda kind of light for that week.
For the 17th?
Thanks,
Yeah, it'll
Frank.
be.
I'm throwing you a bone there, Cheryl.
Thank
You
you.
may be able to, we can monitor the line item transfers, and then, you can post it. When we do line item transfers, we're supposed to be specific, what it is. So if we don't have anything by Thursday, we can always just say, no need to meet, unless you guys wanted to meet over something else. But if there's no line item transfers, I don't necessarily see anything urgent that would need.
No, exactly. Yeah, it should be a very, really light meeting because, obviously we covered all these deferred topics, which was a big, sticking
Right.
point, and there'll be some work in between of progressing there, right? So it will just really be the line item transfers, if there are any, to really cover that night. So,
Okay, that's fine.
yeah.
And-
Unless something else comes up, I guess, but like an ad hoc type of thing. But yeah, I think we should be in good shape.
If none of the line item transfers are pressing, we can skip. Is that what you're kind of saying, Cody?
Either that, or there may not even be any, Frank.
May not be any? Yeah, okay. Well, Sandy said she had a couple
Yeah.
that potentially might be coming up. She didn't say what they were, so.
Yeah, because we wouldn't be scheduled to meet again until what, July 1st, I guess, right? Yeah.
It's 4th of July week.
No. Yeah.
24th, right?
24th.
Oh, no, you don't have a meeting
17th.
scheduled.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were scheduled for July 1st. Yeah, you're right, Todd. July 1st would be the next one, so we'd probably be okay.
Yeah. Is that one going to be actually what we're talking about? Is that one going to be problematic for anyone? Anyone be going on vacation or anything like that, given the holiday?
No, I'll be here.
I'll be here. Every day Saturday for me, Todd.
It's good to be retired, Frank.
Better
Certainly
believe
is.
it.
Hmm.
All right, sounds good. All right, so I guess that brings us to a close unless anybody has any last minute items.
Mm.
No. Hearing none, I guess then would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. Roll call vote. Frank?
Yes to adjourn, please.
Jim?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
EJ?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Meeting is adjourned at 7:07 p.m. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Yeah.
Right.